One day, your parents stop asking if you have eaten, not because they stopped caring, because they have started to wonder whether you still want them to ask. That is the moment many children miss. At first, the silence feels like freedom. No more reminders. No more questions when you are already tired. No more explaining why you cannot come home this weekend. You think, they finally understand. They know I have my own life now. And maybe they do. But understanding that you are busy is not the same as no longer needing you. Parents are not always afraid that their children will say no. A refusal only hurts for a moment. What they fear more is becoming another weight their child has to carry. For years, on most Sunday evenings around 7, his father called. Not every Sunday. Sometimes one of them forgot. Sometimes the father fell asleep in front of the television. Sometimes the son was traveling or working late. But most Sundays, his father's name appeared on the screen. The conversations were rarely important. His father talked about the weather, the neighbor who planted tomatoes too early every spring, a football match neither of them had watched properly, something he had cooked that lasted 3 days because he had made too much. Then he would ask, "How was your week?" And the son would usually answer, "Good." Sometimes they talked for 20 minutes, sometimes 5. Sometimes the conversation ended before either of them had said anything meaningful. At least, that was how the son saw it. He believed important conversations needed a purpose, news, advice, a decision, a problem to solve. He assumed his father called because Sunday evenings were quiet and because older people had more time. He never considered that Sunday evening might be the part of the week his father looked forward to most. He never considered that after speaking to neighbors, shopkeepers, and people on television, there might still be only one voice his father had been waiting to hear. As the years passed, the son's life became fuller. He accepted a better job in another city. His responsibilities increased. His mornings started earlier. His evenings ended later. There was always another message to answer, another meeting to prepare for, another problem that could not wait until tomorrow. His father was proud. When neighbors asked about his son, he said, "He's doing well." He showed them a photograph from the son's company dinner. He talked about the new job as though the achievement belonged partly to him. What he did not tell them was that the calls had begun to change. Before, the son answered, "Hey Dad, how are you?" Later, "Hi Dad, I only have a minute." Before, he sat down while they talked. Later, he placed the phone beside his laptop and continued typing. Before, he asked about the garden. Later, he gave small answers while waiting for the conversation to end. "Yeah, right. That's good. I'll handle it." The son was not trying to be cruel. He loved his father. He was simply tired. And when people are tired, they often save their patience for the things that might punish them if they fail. Work, bills, deadlines, other people's expectations. The people who love us rarely punish us, so we assume they can wait. Then came one Sunday evening. The son was preparing a presentation for Monday morning. His laptop was open. His dinner was going cold beside him. At a little after 7, his phone vibrated. "Dad." He looked at the screen and considered letting it ring. Then guilt made him answer. "Hey Dad, did you eat?" "Yes." "What did you have?" "I don't know, something." His father paused. "You sound tired." "I'm fine." "Are you sleeping enough?" The son kept typing. "Dad, I'm in the middle of something." "I know, I was only asking. I have to finish this tonight." Another pause. Then his father said, "All right, I'll let you work." The son heard the change in his voice immediately. He softened his own. "I'll call you tomorrow." "Okay." The call lasted less than a minute. The son finished the presentation sometime after midnight. The next morning, he remembered his promise while waiting for coffee. Then an email arrived. By lunchtime, he had forgotten again. The next Sunday, his father did not call. The son noticed the time. 7:15, 7:30, nothing. A small part of him felt relieved. He did not have to interrupt his evening. He did not have to sound interested when his mind was somewhere else. He did not have to feel guilty for wanting the call to end. The following Sunday, there was no call again. Then another. The silence had given him exactly what he thought he wanted. So why had it started to feel so heavy? One evening, he opened his call history and searched for his father's name. He scrolled slowly, week after week, month after month. His father's name appeared again and again. Then he noticed something he had never thought about before. Nearly every call had been made by his father. He tried to remember the last time he had called first. Not returned a missed call. Not called because he needed information. Not called because something had happened. Simply called. He could not remember. For years, he had thought his father called because he had nothing better to do. Now another possibility entered his mind. Maybe his father kept calling because he was afraid that if he stopped, the distance between them would become permanent. The son pressed the call button. His father answered after 2 rings. "Hello? Hey, Dad." "Oh, hey." The surprise in his voice was small, but impossible to miss. The son looked at the dark laptop on his kitchen table. Then he asked, "Why haven't you called lately?" His father did not answer immediately. The son could hear the television playing quietly in the background, a cup being placed on a table, the ordinary sounds of a room where someone had been sitting alone. Finally, his father said, "I thought you were busy." The son opened his mouth, but no words came out. His father continued, "You have a lot going on. I didn't want to keep disturbing you." "You weren't disturbing me." Even as he said it, the son remembered the tone of his own voice, the typing during their conversations, the promises to call tomorrow, the relief he had felt when the phone stopped ringing. His father did not argue. He only said, "It's all right, I understand." That hurt more than anger would have. The son had expected blame. Blame would have allowed him to defend himself. He could have explained the deadlines, the pressure, the exhaustion. But his father was not asking for an explanation. He had already adjusted. He had made himself smaller, so his son would not have to make room for him. They spoke for another few minutes. The father asked about work. The son gave longer answers this time, but something had already changed. After the call ended, the son remained at the kitchen table. The room was silent. His laptop screen had gone dark. For years, he had believed his father's questions were a habit. Now he understood they had been an effort. Every Sunday, his father had risked hearing impatience in his son's voice. He had risked feeling unwanted. And still, he had called again the following week, until one day, he decided that loving his son might mean leaving him alone. A few weeks later, the son drove home. His father opened the door and looked surprised. "You didn't tell me you were coming." "I know." "Have you eaten?" The son almost laughed. "Not yet." His father walked toward the kitchen. "There's some stew left from yesterday. I made too much." He always said he had made too much. The son now wondered how often the extra portion had been intentional. His father reheated the stew and placed one bowl on the table. Then he opened the cupboard for another. The son watched him move around the kitchen, a little slower than before, more carefully. His father asked about traffic. The son asked about the neighbor's tomatoes. "They died again," his father said. The son laughed. His father did too. After they ate, the father began carrying the bowls to the sink. The son stood up. "I'll do it." His father looked at him. "You don't have to." "I know." The son washed the bowls while his father dried them. Neither of them mentioned the missed calls. Neither of them apologized. But when the son looked toward the living room, he noticed an old photograph still sitting on the shelf. Him at 22, wearing a navy jacket he could no longer fit into. The same jacket was still hanging in the hallway closet. His father had not kept these things because he expected his son to return to his old life. He kept them because a part of that life still mattered to him. Later that evening, they sat near the window. His father held a cup of tea between both hands. The son asked, "Did you miss our calls?" His father looked down. "Of course." "Why didn't you tell me?" His father gave a tired smile. "Because I didn't want you to feel responsible for me." There it was, the truth beneath the silence. His father had not been afraid that his son would refuse a call. He had been afraid that his son would answer and make him feel like a burden for needing it. The son looked away. His eyes had begun to burn. For a long time, neither of them spoke. There was no sentence that could return all the Sundays he had answered without listening. No apology that could turn "I'll call tomorrow" into the calls he had never made. So the son did the only thing still available to him. He stayed. The next Sunday, a little after 7, the father's phone rang. His son's name appeared on the screen. He answered. "Hello? Hey, Dad. Is something wrong?" "No." "Do you need something?" "No." His father waited. The son leaned back in his chair. "I just wanted to hear your voice." There was a pause on the other end. Then the father quietly said, "Oh." The son could hear him sit down. "So," the son asked, "what happened with the tomatoes?" His father began telling the story. This time, the son closed his laptop. "One day, our parents will stop asking. Sometimes because they have grown tired. Sometimes because life has changed. And sometimes because our answers have taught them to become quiet. Do not wait until their silence becomes loud enough for you to notice. Call before you have important news. Call before something is wrong. Call while the conversation can still be about bad tomatoes, leftover stew, and nothing important at all. Because for someone who loves you, hearing your voice may have been the important part."